All right, so I have been a huge Dave Ramsey fan my entire adult life. Ramsey is basically a verb in our household. I've used his principles to get out of debt. I have taught Financial Peace University at my local church, and I have walked people all the way through to the debt-free scream. So hear me when I say this, I have a lot of respect for what he teaches. But when it comes to estate planning, there are a few things I want to add to this conversation. Take a listen and let's talk about it.
My wife and I have done a wonderful job at saving and investing. Depending upon the age that we retire at, I don't think it's unrealistic that we could end up with a nest egg of between $8 and $12 million.
Well done, sir. Touchdown.
Thank you. So my question is, we're a Christian family. We have four younger, wonderful daughters between the ages of 7 and 13 right now. And I want to know what you feel is appropriate to leave behind as an inheritance, because we're conscious of what the Bible says about money, and we don't want to spoil our children or teach them to rely on money as opposed to relying on God for their needs.
So let's take a quick pause there because this is such a thoughtful question. And honestly, I hear this all the time. Parents aren't asking, how much should I leave? They're actually asking, will this help my kids or will it hurt them? And I love that this family is thinking about this from a values perspective, not just a numbers perspective, because at the end of the day, this isn't just about money. It's about what money does to the people you love the most. And I actually think Dave explains this really well. Listen to how he puts it.
And so here's the principle. You are not obligated, biblically or otherwise, to leave the money to your children. Okay? But to assume that it's going to damage them is not true. Okay? So what wealth does do is it magnifies the character of the person, including you, including me, and including your kids and my kids and Jade's kids. Okay? It magnifies the character of the person so that the problems in my character are magnified when I've got wealth because it gives me power. Does that make sense? The good parts of my character are also magnified. So someone that has a problem with their temper when they become wealthy becomes a rageaholic, and don't you know who I am? Comes out of their mouth. And stupid stuff like that, right? But someone who's generous, when they become wealthy, we call them a philanthropist because they change entire communities with their generosity. So
I completely agree with this. Wealth doesn't create character, it reveals it. And I see this play out in real life all the time. I've had families come into my office where there is money, a lot of money, but there's no structure in place. And what ends up happening is that the family sometimes ends up in conflict. There's a lot of stress and sometimes even division between the family members. Not because the parents did anything wrong, but because they didn't realize what was missing from the plan. Their wishes, or the wishes, I should say, of the family members were not clearly documented. But let's listen to a little bit more of what Dave says here about stewardship.
Whatever it is, good or bad, is magnified. And so the first thing that we taught the Ramsey kids is you're not entitled to anything just because you hit the gene pool lottery, right?
Yep.
You're not entitled to anything, number one. Number two, in order to be qualified to manage the Ramsey wealth, the next generation, you have to have a spiritual understanding of the wealth, and that is that you don't own it, God owns it, you're just managing it. And once you grasp that, you realize wealth is the reasons that the Bible has warnings about wealth, because it's heavy to carry. It's a lot of responsibility to leave one of your children that becomes an adult 10 or 15 million.
This is such a powerful mindset, and I don't want you to miss it. Dave said he taught his children that they're not entitled to any of the money he's leaving behind. Not that they have to earn it, he's going to give it to them, but he wants them to understand that they are not entitled. It's a choice he's making if they meet certain requirements that he gets to set. And the idea is you're not just passing down money, you're actually passing down responsibility. But here's where I see things start to break down. You can believe all of this in your mind, you can teach it all day long, but unless it's actually built into the plan, it doesn't really mean anything at all. And that's where structure becomes really important. Sometimes my clients will ask me, well, what's a good age to leave the money for their children? And how should they structure it? Should I give them all at once? Should I break it up over time? How do I structure it in a way that honors the Lord and honors my intentions? Listen to how Dave explains how he set this up for his own family trust.
hopeful to them it's not too heavy in one season? Would you disperse it? What would you do?
Well, ours was set up until they reached 25 to have some kind of different disbursement, right? So, like when they're minors, it was to be managed, and in order to qualify for a disbursement at 25 in the trust, they would have to have done this, and this. Okay, be walking with God, and actively. So you're not. In other words, we don't want to fund a cocaine habit on the back of a yacht for a reality star. That's not what we want this money to go for. And so, if you're going to do that, then you don't qualify anymore into the trust, right?
All right, so this right here, this is estate planning. What Dave is describing is a trust with conditions. And this is where the legal side really matters, because you can take your values and turn them into a legally enforceable plan. Not just a hope or a wish, not just a conversation, not just name it and claim it, but something that actually holds up over time. And I know Dave often talks about keeping things simple and not needing a lawyer in every situation. And I actually agree with that in very simple cases. But where I see people run into problems is when things aren't as simple as they think. Things like blended families, multiple children in very different life situations, wanting to stagger distributions over time, or protect assets from creditors or divorce. That's where having the right structure in place makes all the difference. But I want to listen a little bit more to what he's saying about this age distribution.
You give a 25-year-old
as a no, I didn't. I had it at 25. We turned it all over to him.
Oh wow!
It's no, we haven't turned it over.
I know, but I'm saying you will.
Mine are now. The youngest is 33. So, but today, if I die, it's just dispersed. But if any one of them decides to live a life that disqualifies them as a manager of God's money, then they're not going to be able to get in.
All right. So you hear what Dave said? In his plan, his kids would get the money outright at 25. And I want you to think this through. And this is where families really need to slow down, because 25 might be perfect for one child. It may be way too early for another. And yet another might be able to handle it even earlier. Some 25-year-olds are established, responsible, and ready. And others are still figuring it out. And neither is wrong, but your plan needs to account for that. I actually had a client recently with 3 children, and originally when he first came to me, he said he felt like the only fair thing to do was to leave everything equally outright. But as we talked through his desires and his children, he started to realize something important. Each of his children were at a very different place in life. One was very responsible and financially stable. Another was still figuring things out. And the third definitely needed more structure and support so as not to blow whatever inheritance was left to her. And what he realized was this: equal doesn't always mean fair, and it certainly doesn't always mean wise. So instead of giving everything outright, we created a plan where each child was supported, but in a way that actually protected them. Now, another question I get all the time is money the problem? When we give somebody a lump sum of money that they can't handle, is money the problem, or is it something else? And I want you to listen to how Dave responds to that.
Just they're taken out of the trust immediately. So, and so because it's not really my money, it's not really their money. We are managing it. One of the beauties of managing it is you get to enjoy it. Money is bad. Our Christian churches that says that money is bad. Money is not bad. It's not good or bad. It's amoral. It doesn't have morals. What it does is it exposes the morals and character of the people that it touches. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Money itself is never the problem. But here's what I see in real life. You can have all the right intentions, but you don't set up a structure that supports the way that you know your children are trained or equipped to handle money. And those intentions don't always play out the way that you expect them to. And this is where good intentions need good structure. And this is really the difference. I love the way Dave Ramsey teaches people how to build wealth. But on this channel, I make sure you know how that wealth will actually be protected and passed on the right way, the way you want and when you want. Because you can actually design your estate plan to protect your children, even from their own decisions if needed. That might look like staggered distributions, incentive-based trusts, asset protection structures. This is not just about leaving money, it's making sure that you leave things properly set up the way that you intend, because no one wants to work their entire life, build something meaningful, and then watch it disappear in the next generation. I mean, you can't technically watch it because you'll be gone, but you don't want that to happen. And this is exactly what Dave is talking about here. Listen to this.
And what I'm dealing with is a 21-year-old who has one skill. In all of his life skill buckets, he has one bucket. He plays football. He doesn't know how to do anything else. And that is exposed when he gets a $10 million signing bonus. And he loses it almost instantaneously. 3.8 years is the average NFL career, and most people leave the NFL broke. The exception would be mainly the offense.
And this is exactly why planning matters, because without structure, money disappears. Not because people are bad, but because they weren't prepared to manage it. So here's the takeaway. Dave Ramsey is absolutely right. This is about character. And estate planning is where you take those principles and turn them into a plan that actually works in real life for you and for your family. And this is why both sides matter. Building wealth is extremely important, but protecting it and passing it on the right way is just as important. If you're thinking about what to leave for your children and how to do it well, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'm Attorney Otto. Plan wisely, live confidently, and I'll see you next time.